Good afternoon, everybody. It is Brandon Foster, author of Confident AF, Unleash Your Inner Badass, here to help you grow and scale your business by changing how you view and think about yourself and your relationship with God to do what you've never done before. And today I'm really excited because I have a special guest today with me. His name is Jon Graham, and he is what I call a cruise king. He is obsessed with group cruising, and I had an incredible opportunity to serve him inside of Born to Slay, my high level mindset mastermind for people who really want to build with grace and faith and defy the odds, so to speak, of being an entrepreneur and defying what you might think or believe is possible for you and your business. So I'm going to bring Jon in right now. Jon, so good to see you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to share everybody about your story and your journey inside of Born to Slay.
Oh, Brandon, man, it's a privilege to be here. And I got to start with just telling everybody how much I freaking love Brandon Foster. You are such an encouragement. It just oozes out of you. You smell it coming down the road, and I just love hanging out with you. It's so good.
Well, I love that. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate the compliment. You know, it's my greatest joy is to encourage other people so that they can do what they've never done before inside of their business. Why don't we start with a very typical question, which is tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you met me and what was happening in your life and your business that brought you inside of Born to Slay.
Well, my background is, I mean, it's bizarre. I've been in ministry my whole life and
Yeah.
a video producer for a ministry as well. And about 2.5 years ago now, I went on my first cruise and I became a cruise evangelist because I love it so much. And because of that, somebody said, you ought to get into the business. And I was like, okay, if I can get paid to do this, why not?
Yeah.
And as I was just reaching for every single thing that I could find to help me learn what I was doing, I bumped into an interview, a podcast you were part of Travify.
Yeah.
And when I watched the I can't remember the name of the branding of their podcast for that, but when I watched you on that, I was like, this guy's different. There's something way different about this guy. And so I subscribed to your podcast and I became basically binged everything I could that was Brandon Foster. And, you know, I once we connected, you started dropping things about, the mastermind, and I was like, I don't know. I don't How long did we go back and forth? It was a year or so probably.
Yeah.
I made a initial investment in one of your other programs, and I enjoyed that and was really blessed by that. I don't know, New Boo New You, I think is what it was. Um, and in New Year, New Boo, I don't know. But so just got all I could out of that, and I was like, okay, I just had to come to grips with the fact that I knew that you were proven. Why not invest in myself and get squeeze as much juice out of Brandon Foster as I possibly can? And man, I'm just so grateful I made that decision.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember everything perfectly, because as time passes, sometimes things get a little bit fuzzy. But I do remember that you did New Year, New You Boo. And I believe you also did FBS Love Yourself, Love Your Life. I think you actually did too before you joined the mastermind. And what I remember is every single time you would do one of these programs, you would take another leap inside of your travel business in terms of shifting your belief, what you thought was possible, what you thought you could do, what you believed uh, God's grace could also do in your business while you continue to work your full-time job. And then the sales would reflect those shifts and those beliefs. And I remember, personally just getting excited because I don't release a lot of those programs like I used to. And I'm sure there'll be a season where I do more of that. But I remember it was so great to have you, and I couldn't have planned it this way, but to see each of those two courses build and stack off of one another to get you to a place to actually join the mastermind. I thought that was really, really cool. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the difference between what the courses were like versus what it was like to actually be inside of the mastermind in the room with everybody else and getting those one-on-one coaching calls with me.
Oh wow! I mean, it's night and day. For one thing, your content is fantastic. It always is. It's going to cause you to think about the way you do business, ways, and you kind of keep a steady diet of that coming. And when you bump up against an issue, then you kind of you draw back on the library of Brandon that you have in your brain, and you try to figure out, okay, I can try. But when you're inside the mastermind, honestly, the curriculum to me, and this may not be what you want to say and you can edit it out, but the curriculum is secondary to the mastermind group calls for a couple of reasons. You begin to build relationships with the people in the mastermind. I'm friends with several back on Facebook now, and we keep up with each other and encourage one another, and we celebrate each other's wins. But at the end of whatever it is that God's laid on your heart to talk about that week, there's the round robin. And that's when when the lights come on so much, because we're all just throwing maybe a thing or two at you and saying, this is what I'm dealing with. And it's creepy how you just close your eyes, listen to the Holy Spirit, and boom, you come out with some stuff that just knocks you in the teeth. And it always helps. And that is where Born to Slay is worth the every penny, because it's really what coaching becomes coaching and not just learning. And I
Yeah.
am so grateful for that experience.
I've never thought of it that way. And I also really love what you said, because the curriculum is definitely important because it provides the foundation, the framework. And not everybody that joins the mastermind will have done New Year, New You Boo or FBS, Love Yourself, Love Your Life. So, in some regards, I feel like you had a nice little step up above some people that come right into the mastermind. Not that it's required or necessary, but it's just a little bit more pre work, if you will. And I do really love that piece of the mastermind, the community piece, which I really do not talk enough about. And the language that you all speak in terms of co-creation, faith, grace is now a really big keyword as you build your business. I am curious because I often talk to people and I say that this is a container where I trust that you understand marketing and the practical pieces of your business, and that you don't need another strategy to increase your sales, to attract higher level clients. And, I felt like you really accomplished that. Can you explain how the pieces inside of Born to Slay did have a practical outcome and how it changed how you showed up in your business and those results?
This is going to seem like such a non-answer, Brandon, but everything that you preach is mindset, you know, and it's easy to skim over that and just look at it as a buzzword. But when you really live with your own mindset towards your business for 6 to 8 to 10 weeks, and you're forced, gently but gently forced, to face the realities that both the curriculum and your coaching present you with, you have to come to some conclusions that, you know what, I've got to take responsibility for how I think and what my thoughts dictate about my future. And in my context, I was in ministry my whole life, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of conflict between ministry mindset, which is serve everybody, don't expect to get anything in return, and business mindset, which is serve everybody, but be sure you get enough in return to continue to serve everybody. And to be honest, it took a massive shift for me to see that my whole life ought to really reflect the second one, because God's not interested in me being broke and poor. I can't help anybody broke and poor, but I can help a lot of people and have been able to help a lot of people by having, success, both in credibility. I don't want to say, reputation, but in credibility, but also in the resources that have come from that. And so it's been a massive overhaul. And don't get me wrong, it is still a massive overhaul. There are roots that I keep pulling up and I go, oh my God, I thought I dealt with this already. But just to have the tools to know how to do that is really where Born to Slay is a game changer.
Yeah. What were some of your biggest wins that you had inside the curriculum?
Wow. You know, I, most people, and I can point to numbers. All right. I can point to all of the the wins as far as finances are concerned. I had my biggest months ever, over $100,000 more than once. Um, I am working on two charters now. They haven't completely solidified, but for those that aren't in the travel agency, that's a complete buyout of a cruise ship, which is a pretty big deal. And that's
Yeah.
two of those that I am nurturing. One's a little further along than the other, and it's just a matter of the client's timing more than anything. But honestly, I feel like the biggest win that I have had is knowing what happens when I have a cancellation, knowing how to get up and go, this is grace. God's got something going on for me that as soon as I just get this out of my system, he's going to pour something new in. And it has been powerful. I had a large group. I have had, let's see, a 75 passenger, 75 folks, 76 folks on one cruise, another 76, and this one coming up in February's got over 130 booked. But one of those groups started to go sideways hard, and there was a little virus that got spread among some of the participants having to do with pricing and it wasn't anything I had done wrong. It was something that somebody outside of me didn't pay attention to the details, and it started poisoning this whole process. And I
Mm.
got really, really down about that. And I was like, this whole thing could fall apart. I've hung my hat on this thing. And going through Born to Slay, the timing was impeccable. Just learning how to receive grace, how to extend grace, and just like the weather changing, it cleared up. It was a phenomenal experience. I thought about giving up on them, and because I didn't, God has turned that group of 70 into that group of 130 that's coming up, and there's still
Wow.
plenty of time for that to grow.
Yeah.
And it's just a great example of what happens when you think clearly and you're taught how to think clearly instead of taking this stuff personally. I started looking at cancellations as an opportunity to minister. Nobody really wants to cancel their vacation.
Right.
Um, there's got to be something going on that makes them in that position. So then my pastor's heart turns on, and I go, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I will do everything I can to get your money back. How can I pray for you? Whatever is going on in your life." And it's so many times my job just fired me, or I can't get my overtime anymore, or I got a health crisis, and that's an opportunity for me to give grace in a completely different way. And so understanding how to do that has really, really been huge for me.
Wow, that is huge. That you're blessing me with just that perspective right now because I mean, grace is something that has been really, Born to Slay version 3.0. There's always been the co creation, there's always been the faith aspect. This last 6, 7 months inside of the container, last year was my personal word of the year was grace, but I wasn't really receiving in my business in a lot of different areas of my life. And that's really changed a lot for me personally. And one of the things I'm really grateful for is God's very patient with me, and He teaches me, and I get to pour that into other people. So hopefully they don't have to go through what I went through. And just hearing you talk about how grace is not just transformed your business from a financial standpoint, but hearing how it's changed from an impactful standpoint from client service and how you show up for people is huge. Because often we can be very nearsighted in our humanness, and we forget it's not just a sale, it's a person. Like our
Yeah.
business is always about service. And when you take care of the people and you are an outpouring of grace to other people, really amazing things happen. And let's not forget, it's easier to give grace when you receive it. It's easier to give when you receive money, right? When you are healthy, it's easier to help someone who's sick. And so I love that you have grown in your reception of grace inside of your business. And because of that reception, you are then able to pour it back into other people is really, really beautiful. I really love that. So speaking of Born to Slay 3.0,
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of joined maybe in the tail version of 2.0, and I feel like you were definitely, part of the 3.0 version where I started to really come and just full disclosure, y'all. Don't guarantee this if you guys join the mastermind that every week I'm going to have a brand new training. But recently, for the last several months, I've almost been doing like live workshops almost every single week on new processes and stuff. What has that been like for you to kind of be at the cutting edge of where God's growing in my own life and my own business?
Well, you remember I called you out halfway through. I mean, we had a 1-to-1 scheduled, and I said, Brandon, what's going on? Because you've gone from everything I was used to hearing from all of the podcasts and from all of the previous trainings and the first few weeks of Born to Slay to, I mean, it turned into church. I mean, it was all about how God mobilizes you in your business and doing the dirty work that God wants to do in your life so that you can go be the best version of yourself you can be to your clients. And all of this stuff. And I was like, I was grateful for it, but I was confused because I was like, I didn't know I was signing up for a seminary class here. This is interesting, and it has been phenomenal. I mean, my respect for you because of where I came from is, ministry background. My respect for you was already high for what you knew and how you loved people. But to see how God was pouring into you and you were so freely pouring into us, it was like, man, I just feel like I'm drinking from the fountain here. And it was wonderful. And I'm glad I still have access to the trainings because I want to go back and re-review them, for my weekly dose of vitamin B.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
And it's really been tremendous. I don't even know what else to say. I did want to something else that you said that caught my mind. The concept of co-creation as it relates to your business. I when I learned from you how to ascribe every creative idea that I have as a gift from God and to sift through those and basically just say, okay, God, which one of these do we want to chase today? And chase them. And then if they didn't work out like we thought, we learned something. If they did, we were blessed. And there's no losing when you're co-creating, when you're along with God and he's planting these creative ideas of how to gin up business or how to tell others. I'm literally sitting in my truck right now because I finished delivering a presentation about travel to a group of senior adults who are so excited about everything. They have the money, they have the time. They're like, as long as they can put up with my walker or my wheelchair, let's go. And I'm like, let's go, So I never would have thought that. That wouldn't have been a market I would have chased after, but God just stuck it in my head. And I said, let's chase after that. Let's see what happens. And they are so excited. So that's just one more example of how you allow God to speak to you, and then you speak to us, and we're able to put that all in context of business and growth, and it's tremendous.
Yeah. And for those of you, I love everything that you said. And for those of you that maybe are curious, like if you don't necessarily believe or don't have a huge relationship with God or the Bible, this is still a completely welcome and opening space. I come from religious trauma is in my background. And when I started my own mindset journey, it was really more about the universe than it was God. And my own path and my own journey of evolving has led to a pretty consistent prayer for all of you that are growing your business, which is, God, show me the intersection of faith, mindset, and science. And that's kind of the guidebook of Born to Slay, is going back into the Bible. How does what the Bible say corroborate what science says, and how does that impact your business, specifically bottom line and results? And that's where my own journey's kind of taken me. And I was talking to my husband about this, John, because he even said the other day, he goes, you don't use the term universe like you used to. And without even saying anything, he goes, it's not a relationship like it is when you actually have a relationship with God and really understand what Jesus has done in terms of that relationship and that freedom that that provides. And so I want to acknowledge what you said as being absolutely unequivocally true. And also, for those of you who are listening and are just curious and wondering about my own journey, I think it's important for you to know where I came from. I think it's important to know where my journey is. And, if you all were to read my book, Confident, Unleash Your Inner Badass, I already have version 2.0 percolating, which is probably the post-grace version, maybe is what it is, because that was definitely written before I had the understanding of grace. And I'm not ready to write version 2 because I'm still soaking up what grace actually means and activating inside business. So I really love and appreciate your honesty and sharing all those pieces. So the next question I have to ask is, you hinted on this a little bit, that I seem to go deep, go to the roots on the group coaching calls. And obviously one of my favorite pieces of Born to Slay is that I get to pour into people one-on-one, which I can't do in any of my courses. And obviously I have to limit how many people join the mastermind because it does take time to pour into somebody one-on-one. But what was that one-on-one interaction like in terms of speaking life and encouragement over both your beliefs and your business?
I don't want to say this without, and I don't want it to come out too spooky, but when I present a problem I'm dealing with, or a question or a concern, I can't think of a single time when you have not returned something profound, yet obvious, yet simple, yet why didn't I think of that? But honestly, it's like, that's what a coach does. That is what a coach does. A coach looks at your swing and says, no, you need to lean a little bit more to the left and cock your hands a little bit more this way, and you're going to hit that ball that much better. That's exactly what you do in those one-on-ones. Is I present an issue I'm dealing with, or sometimes you blindside me because I'm just talking and you catch something and you go, no, wait, John, that's not the right way to think about that. You should think about it this way. And I go, oh my gosh, you're right. And it's like going to church and getting your feet stepped on, by the preacher, because you're just that good at what you do, Brandon. And it's the best, the hands down, the best investment I've ever made in I think anything, honestly, other than maybe my wife's engagement ring. But it's absolutely, it's where it's at.
Wow. I appreciate that very much. What would you say to people who are maybe either doubting about how mindset matters or wondering if it's worth it? They just keep feeling the pull like you did for so long. What would you say rests for them on the other side?
Confidence that you made the right decision. You were courting me, for lack of a better term, to join Born to Slay for months. And every time I would just, I'm thinking about it. And one time, actually several times, you came back with decide. You're not thinking about it. You're deciding to not do it yet, or don't think about doing it. Decide to do it, And those words rang around in my head a lot. And I had to come to grips with the idea, am I really going to decide to do something that I know will benefit, but I'm worried about the money? The money shows up. It just does. I can't explain it. I can't point to the recipe or the math, but the money shows up, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, I've only been in this business 2.5 years, Brandon. I've only been doing any business on my own as an entrepreneur that ever made any money. I've only been doing it for 2.5 years. And I am regularly pulling in four-figure, sometimes even more commissions. Sales are, I mean, if I go under 50,000 in a month, I'm like, oh man, I got to go back and check some things. But I mean, it's regular. It's commonplace now. One of your friends that you talk about all the time, Amanda Francis, I went and downloaded her book. I mean, honestly, if people who know me know that you and Amanda Francis are two people I would probably never normally hang out at a party with. Okay, but I can't wait to hang out at a party with you and maybe Amanda Francis one day, because it's just so clear that what God is doing through you to help others. How can I refuse that? How can I walk further away from that? I want to get closer to it. And I appreciate how much you pour your, not only your business life, but your personal life into what you do. I mean, I'll just go ahead and let folks know I had the privilege of enjoying Mexican food with you and Dustin in Tampa,
Yeah,
and
it's fun.
just just got to know you on a personal level, and got to know Dustin, and just, it's a special thing.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that's on your heart that a stone unturned that we didn't turn over that you
Oh,
turn over?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is, but I want to tell folks, don't be like me. The longer you wait, the longer until the blessings start pouring in. That's all there is to it. That's the point. So if you're thinking about joining, do it, and you will not regret it.
I love that. Thank you so much, John. I cannot wait to see and watch you grow and scale even more. It's just part of me, my own monkey brain sometimes has to be in awe of God's grace and his blessings over you and your business, because 2.5 years, not even 2.5 years, and you are already at, averaging 50, 100K in sales a month, and you have two charter cruises in the work. That's a testimony, is what that is, to what grace can do, and changing your beliefs, and resolve, and also passion too, that God's put on your heart to do this. I just think that's fantastic. And you and I both know that there's a lot of seeds you haven't seen grown at all yet, and others that are not even close to have grown fully. I mean, just hearing you talk about everybody who you poured love and grace to had to cancel, they're going to be back,
Yeah.
because a lot of people would not give those people grace. A lot of people would have judged them and made all sorts of stories about, not being committed, and, whatever it is. And that's really special. I can't wait to see how those blessings come forth from all of that too.
Yeah, me
Awesome.
too. Me too.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this incredible testimonial. Link is down there to apply to join Born to Slay yourself. I would love to see that application come through so that I can bless you with the gifts that God has given me to shift how you think about yourself and your business, to do what you've never done before, with more rest and more ease than ever before as well. That is what we call grace. Have a beautiful day.